We are Chambers Design Build. We focus on primarily building custom homes for people in the Hill Country. We do some light commercial. We are very custom in our approach, from a development process through dirt to key and building a custom home for our clients. We've been in business for about 12 years now. After talking to Gary the first time, I could tell that he was obviously very much professional, but knew what he was talking about. And then after the initial first site visit, his confidence in the product and his abilities was really what sold my client on wanting to go with Renergy. Gary's knowledge of the industry and the products, and not just from a sales side, but from the working components and warranties and those kind of things, really helped really cement our decision to go with Renergy. The client wasn't real sure what we wanted until we got into it with Gary. The idea was to be completely unreliant on the grid. We had to set up a full self-sustaining system that would provide power no matter what. And so after meeting with Gary and meeting with the client, and she was able to convey then exactly what she wanted. This wasn't just a alternative or substitute for offsetting the cost of electricity and power, but truly to be a standalone system. So he proposed then a microgrid for both systems that we installed at this client's property. And what that amounted to was, which gave her great confidence in, is that primarily she runs off of solar all the time. And so the grid is actually third as far as the sequence of backup. Solar is primary, and then if solar is depleted, then generator kicks in and charges the batteries so that the solar then becomes primary again. And if both of those systems were not available to supply power, then it would go back to the grid, and the grid would carry the power to the two projects that we had. So it really gave this client a lot of flexibility on having the assurance of power no matter what happened to the grid, and even if the grid was down for an extended period of time. Gary and the guys on site were, well, just a little background. One of the employees of this particular ranch is very particular about how things look, how they operate, how they're managed. He's in charge of all the maintenance on the ranch, and one of the first things that he was impressed with was not only the professionalism of the crew on site and their cleanliness and keeping the site clean and picked up, and was the actual work itself. Him being a very much a technician, coming from the being a master plumber, really appreciated their attention to detail in not just installing the components, but even to the smaller aspects of bending the conduit so it's consistent. And so what is visible and seen is very neat and very consistent. And if you really don't notice it, because it blends in with as if it were always there. So him was this employee of my client was on site every day, and was conveyed numerous times how much he appreciated the crew and their communicating well and keeping the job site clean, and just trying to make sure that they were as low impact as possible on the daily operations around the ranch. I really didn't know what to expect. This is our first solar project of this magnitude. We've done smaller ones, but one that was this size is just the thoroughness of what Gary brought to the table in providing little redundancies, and while we were purchasing the panels, to go ahead and purchase some extra panels just in case there was storm damage or some panels got damaged. We weren't waiting on replacement panels to come in. We had literally replacement components on site. not obviously a full replacement for all the panels, but enough to where if a few were damaged, we could continue on. And so just thinking through the whole process of what that would look like in a long-term application of this product, and not just being 6 months down the road, but this could be, years down the road where we have extra components on site that would be a plug and play, literally, to keep the system up and running.
I did the billing, and I was on a lot of the emails, and I can say that his response time was amazing. It was almost like he was waiting there just to respond quickly, and he was always very professional. And if I had any questions about the billing, he was on it and answered them. But honestly, the billing for this type of project, and it was actually 2 projects kind of done simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful, from my point of view, it was a great process.
I would echo that. We created a group text with personnel on the ranch, directly with their person who does all their maintenance, but also with others on the ranch who worked in the area where we were working. And so Gary was real good to include everyone that might even be impacted by what might be going on the job that day, or when materials were going to be delivered, or when we were going to be trenching and have the road blocked and those kind of things. So I would say that was one of the, all of the experience was very good, but that was just the icing on the cake, because communication these days seems to be a thing that's becoming of the past. And Gary was really over and above in communicating well, and not to the point where was ever a nuisance by any stretch, but always wanting to be available, and was. And then just again, communicating throughout the week as situations on the job site might change, or as they were moving to the next phase of construction. So I would rate the communication is fantastic, 100%. Again, our experience with Renergy and Gary is 2 fairly large projects, as Jennifer said, combined even, actually. But just based on that, and the professionalism and the attention to detail of the installation, and what I really appreciated is, because I know absolutely nothing about solar, and so when I hire a professional, I expect them to know everything they need to know to provide a product that's going to serve my customer. And the guys on site were extremely helpful, always courteous, very polite. We didn't have to deal with any loud music or inappropriate language or those kind of things. But if Gary, for some reason, was not on site when I happened to go visit the job site, the foreman on site would be always available and willing and ready to answer any questions, and even some very technical questions when we brought out our electrician that we typically use for that ranch and for that project. And this electrician is commercial, does a lot of big projects, has done numerous solar projects. In fact, it has come in behind other solar contractors on projects and had to correct and change some things. And this particular electrician that we use up there was very impressed. His words were, "These guys know what they're doing," because he has seen the alternative. Even just some of the technical details that, from a layman's standpoint, were explained where a layman could understand it and have an appreciation for it, and which just gave me that much more confidence in the system and the longevity of the system. I just can't reiterate enough just how professional everything was handled, from the initial meeting and walking the project and walking the property, to putting together the numbers and then adjusting those numbers until we landed on a plan and a final product that the client was comfortable with, both in what it was going to serviceability, and price. And then again, all the way through the guys in the field who were trenching and bending conduit and pulling wire, and at every level, the professionalism was outstanding. I don't know how it could be improved on from our perspective.